Right then, this is Sharky from SHAR-KADE. So today I'm going to show off how to wire the PactoTech on the Ultimate Deluxe control panel. Now what you're going to have to do is, if you do have an existing control panel, you are going to have to remove your Xinput controller and replace it with the PactoTech. It may require you to drill some 2.5mm holes and put some standoffs, PC standoffs inside those holes and mount your PactoTech. Whatever method you're going to use to actually mount the PactoTech is up to you. Like I say, I do recommend you use some of these PC standoffs, these little standoffs. You can buy them anywhere on eBay or Amazon. Basically, once you've got your board mounted and your Xinput controller removed, you'll have a ton of wiring, but what you're going to have to do is each wire you're going to have to cut the end off, because you'll get the little GPIO connector on the Xinput controller and you're going to have to strip your wiring. So I usually solder my ends, just makes it a lot easier. See if it'll focus in there. So I just solder my ends of the wiring. So basically it's pretty straightforward from there. On the front of the control panel, you do have all your 8 buttons. Now, just adjust the camera there a second. So the 8 buttons is going to be A, B, X, Y, LB, RB, left trigger, right trigger. Same on player 2, you would be A, B, X, Y, LB, RB, left trigger, right trigger. What I'll do though is I'll leave a wiring guide up on the Google Drive, so there'll be a link in the description. So let's flip the board back over, and on the PactoTech it's pretty simple. You do have all your indications, what button does what. So you have your up, down, left, right, which would be coming off your sandwich stick. So generally the wiring from the top pin, this is the top pin, the bottom pin is the ground. So it's up, down, right, left, not left, right. So it's up, down, right, left, going from top to bottom. Same with the player 2 stick. And then on the board it's all labelled, so you have your A, B, X, Y, LB, RB, left trigger, right trigger. Now the left trigger and right trigger for player 1 will have to be mapped to your left pinball and right pinball. Okay, so what we would then do is we would have a update, a remapping update for your current build, and what that would do is that would allow your left and right pinball to work as left and right pinball, and then your exit standard buttons would be your coin and start together. So holding coin and start together would be your exit emulator key rather than your left pinball. The coin and start in Mame is to enable a menu, so we would have a hold coin and start for around 3 seconds, and then that would exit your emulator. So it's pretty simple. You can use a little screwdriver for these push pins. I will find something just to grab something quickly. So I'm going to wire the down for player 1. So the top is ground, which I've actually got wired wrong there. So we're going to pull out the pin, push down the up, and just push in that red cable there. Once you've got it in, just give it a little tug to make sure it's not pulling straight out, and then you will just follow to your next wire, and just make sure as you're going through your control panel, you try and keep the wires separated and not tangled up. It makes it easier when you're actually 2 moments. There is a focus setting on this camera which autofocus is, and there's multiple settings, so I'll have to go through and try and change that. But yeah, basically just make sure when it comes to doing your wiring, you keep your wiring separate as you plug in each wire in. So basically, when it comes to actually cable tying your wires back, it makes it a lot easier. You're not having a whole tangled mess. You can keep all the wires nice and neat and clean. With the control panels, you do have to make sure all the wiring isn't sticking up. There is certain areas on the machine where you've got fans, the graphics card fan and stuff like that. You've just got to make sure you avoid those fans with the cable in when you're putting your control panel back on. So if you're not confident enough to do the wiring yourself, it's worth you maybe getting a IT tech or an electrician of some sort to come out and do the wiring for you. Or even just take your top control panel away, do the wiring, bring it back, and then just wire those last two wires for the left and right pinball. So like I say, just push down the little pin, push in your cable, give it a little tug. As you see there, comes straight out, so just push back in, little tug, still not going in right. Usually that pin pops back up if it's incorrectly there. No, so just keep trying, and it doesn't. Nice tug there, and that's not coming out. But I don't think that's in actual fully. It usually pops a pin up, but I'm giving it a good hard tug there, and it's not coming out, so that should be fine. Let's grab the right. So the next cable down on the arcade stick is right rather than left, because it goes up, down, right, left. So we'll just make sure the cables aren't tangled and just push in the right pin and just push in that pin there. Same with the left control pin. Push the pin in and push it in and just give it a little tug. Make sure it's all in. And now we have our up, down, left, right all nice and neat and wired up correctly. Now for player one side, so make sure you're on player one side. Remember, your buttons is going to be that way, so if you flip your board, it's going to be A, B, X, Y, L, B, R, B, because we're looking at the top of the panel here. We're looking at the actual top of the panel rather than the bottom. That's a bottom because you've got your grooves there. Just make sure when you do your wiring, always give it a test. If you want to plug in the cable, go into Windows, do a test. In control panel, I can do another tutorial for that as well. I can show you how to get into Windows and just check your wiring. I may even just add that to this video. So we're going to grab the A, which should be our brown cable. Usually on the Xinput controllers, when I set them up, it is brown. You may even have to do some extensions of wires. So you may have to grab some a crimp tool, some strippers, and some cable crimps. Basically male and female cable crimps, just for the wiring itself, if the cables don't quite reach to the board itself. Like I say, you can always get some GPO wires or just some wire, different color wires. It's quite cheap to pick up. You can get the crimp connectors, which I think the 2.8 mil crimp connectors are the small ones, and some heat shrink. Little heat gun or hair dryer will do the job, or a lighter if you want to use a lighter on the heat shrink. Just always crimp your connectors, extend it, and then cut, strip, twist the wire and solder it if you wish. If you're not very good at soldering, just put it in with the stripped wire. Just be careful, obviously. Don't have it freighted too much. Just take your time. And like I say, the best option is just to have a little bit of tint of solder just on the end. Heat up your solder gun. You don't have to be very good at soldering, and just tint the ends. That's all you need to do. Just tint the ends of the wire. It just makes it a lot easier to put the wire in, because if you're having to pull it back out, you're fraying the wire a bit and stuff like that. If it's soldered, it just stops any fraying and stuff. and you're not getting little bits of copper wiring on the board and stuff like that. So where we've got our air button, just push that pin down, push the cable in, give it a little tug, and then we will go with, it's usually pink, but on this one it is red. It usually goes brown, pink, yellow, blue, but the wiring's red on this, so it's brown, red, yellow, blue. Then we usually go brown, pink, or red in this case. Then it's sometimes purple or orange or purple, depends which way we wire it. That's generally the colours that you would get with our machines. So let's grab our pink red wire and just map that to B. Push it in, give it a tug, and there you go. What I'll do is I'll finish off the wiring, then I'll come back. Just a quick note, the features on these controllers do recognize as Xbox 360 controllers, so the support through most games and most systems just works, especially emulator systems. The Xbox 360 controllers do work, and there is some add-ons that go on these pins here, basically our display board, and then you also have the wireless adapter as well that you'll receive when you purchase a full kit from SHAR-KADE. It all depends on the 2-player board to 4-player board. There is other features, you can add more buttons, but I don't recommend drilling extra holes in your cabinet if you don't need it. We are going to need to drill a hole for the display board. You don't need that display board, but it is recommended because you want to know what mode you're in on the board and stuff like that. And if you're having issues with the board, you want to know if there is an issue, if it is in the right mode and so on. So the little display port is needed really, and obviously you will need a 30mm hole cutting bit, drill bit. Basically drills a 30mm hole for your machine, and then you would slot it in like you would any arcade button. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll cut away, finish off the wiring, and then I'll be back. So we're going to do the last 2 buttons for the player 1 side. So for the back button, which would be our coin button, would be the yellow for the coin button on the front of your arcade. Just plug that in. And then the blue, it's generally blue, would be your start button, and that would just go to start. So once that's done, all you do is, I like to keep the right pinball button over to the right side, so that's going to be our right trigger. Also the ground, I'll just get the ground in there. I missed the ground out. And just feed that one in there. Give it a little pull. So all we want to do now is pull all the wiring to the side nice and neat. Try not to keep it tangled. Just pull it all to one side, nice and tight. Keep your left pinball, which is going to be your left trigger, over to the left hand side there, and then just feed a cable tie in round the back, keeping it all nice and tight. Make sure it's all tight against there like that, so it keeps it nice and neat. Tighten your cable tie and then grab your little snippers and just cut the end of the cable tie off, and just repeat all the way along, keeping all the wiring nice and tight. What I'll do is I'll get player 2 wired up, and then I'll be back. So when you finished your wiring, you're going to have something hopefully that looks like this. Now I do recommend is keeping the coin and start button a little loose. This is the reason. Basically we've got it tied down here, but we've got these a little loose just so they can reach the coin and start on the front of the unit, that's all. Once you've got it all wired up in front of the unit, you can then just tie those cables back, then raise panel back on top of the unit. Now we do have our fan connector in that. I'll try and show where that actually goes. In the motherboard we have our LED cable connector as well. You may even need a hot glue gun, just to stick some stuff back down, but that's all wired up. Now we will need to mount our USB cable for the PactoTech, and then we're going to have to drill a hole in the side of the unit. So I'm going to hopefully try and get a video of that, but it does require we both to be there, just to keep one to keep the crap off and the other one to drill the hole and hold the machine. So I'll be back in a second. Right, so once you are ready to install your display screen, basically we need a 30mm hole, so you want to find a place around this side of the cabinet next to the hard drive, and that's where we're going to put this one. So what I like to do is just find a position. So you do need maybe a 2 3mm drill bit, and then you also need a 30mm hole cutter. Now what I would like to do is just find a place that's going to be roughly, just leave a little mark just so I know that's my center mark there, and then what I'll do is just drill a hole straight through, and then I'll try and position the camera around 2 moments. So I just, once you've got your pilot hole drilled in, I like to put it in reverse first, just to make a mark on the artwork, so when you put the bit through it doesn't rip and tear the artwork as you're going through. So just keep hold of the cabinet, nice and easy through. Also make sure you are clearing the hard drive, because when you're pushing this through it may slip and you may hit that hard drive. If you hit that hard drive you're going to likely damage the drive itself. You can take the hard drive out, which might be safer to do. Just go nice and slow. When you're near the end, just go nice and slow once you're near the end, and then it will pop. Just try not to put too much pressure on it, because it will likely slip and then you're likely to catch something. So once you've drilled your hole, you will take the nut off the back, now you may have to extend these wires. You do get a sort of wiring guide where the wires go on the PactoTech, but just push the wires through the hole, put your little display port in. Make sure it's lined up and you're not seeing any gaps from where you've cut the hole, and just put your nut over. If you're too close to the top you're not going to get your nut on. If you're too close to the bottom of it, it is going to catch that hard drive. So just make sure you measure twice and drill once. Once you've got it in place, just lock it in. Sometimes these nuts as well, I like to put sometimes a little bit of hot glue. This one's quite tight, but a little bit of hot glue on the back of the nut, just to hold the nut in place, so over time it doesn't slip out and stuff like that. So it's not slipping the nut and your display isn't coming loose and stuff. But what I'll do is I'll cut away. Like I say, these may need extended. I don't think they will do. I think we're going to have just enough room to get those cables in to the PactoTech. We do next need to mount our wireless adapter as well. That's something you're going to have to look at, where it's going to go and where the cable is going to go. I would recommend likely on this right hand side. Just find a position, maybe on the side there for it to go in. You'll also have to have room for your dongle, or you can then wire the actual USB from the side USB ports there. So them come around here. We've got our USB cables there, which go into our USB 3.0 into the motherboard. So what I recommend is maybe using one of those, the top one. Just follow the cable around the machine and maybe use the top USB to plug into the wireless board. Let's have a look. We should have a wireless board here. So this is your wireless board. So basically it's just a USB extension. Your secondary USB for the PactoTech goes into this board, into the back, and then your wireless dongle or controllers can fit into that port. You can use a USB extension and then just use the Xbox controller USBs that you use for the USBs into that extension, and then so on. So you can then just hot swap the controls from the Xbox controllers to the arcade sticks and so on, back and forth. Now you do have pins on here. I do recommend you check the PactoTech wiring guide and then find out where these pins on this board go, on this cable, go into that board. Okay. Right, so I had to make some adjustments to where the board's positioned. I forgot that the cable that you get with the PactoTech does need a shorter cable from the PactoTech to the dongle master. So you need to use a short cable, and then you'd have to mount it next to it. I've used double standoffs, so it makes it a bit higher. So if you want to plug in your wireless Xbox One controller adapter, you can plug it in there, and you're not going to have no restrictions from there to the board itself. Gives you enough room. So if you look at the unit itself, you've got the enough space between the boards, and that's not going to restrict the top going on. And then you have your display down the side there, and then the wires linked up to the display itself. Gives you plenty of room to have everything mounted. Now I'm just going to remove these extended cables, because if you extend it, it's not going to work. You do need a short cable from the PactoTech to the dongle master, which you get with the kit, and then you need your cable going from there to the display. So no expanding the wires from the PactoTech to the dongle master. Be back in a sec. Right, so I've done some extensive testing on the unit. Now I ran into an issue when testing it. Now with the wiring, you do need the PactoTech wires, not bundled up with any other wiring. So as I've got these cable tied and stuff, you're going to have to try and keep these wires loose if you can. You've got to just find a position where they're not going to be touching any fans or components. Now the graphics cards in these units sometimes are a little bit taller, so this wire may catch. So you may have to at least shape the wiring if you can, and then tape it down onto the GPU away from the other wires if you possibly can. It's not going to be the easiest job to figure out your wiring, but once you get it sorted, it's fine. I've done some extensive testing. I don't seem to be running into any more issues. Now what I've done as well is, because these units can have a wireless dongle for your Xbox One controllers, so your USBs on the side, I've got the bottom one rigged up, so the bottom one's going to be your PactoTech default USB. That's rigged into the dongle master, then the dongle master is connected through USB and so on. So when you actually connect the wireless dongle up, we would use it in the bottom port and then sync up your controllers that way. So there is some remapping of your wiring you'll have to do. Now I've got the PactoTech running from the USB 3 on the motherboard, the main PactoTech board, and then I've got the secondary cable actually running on the 2.0 ports, which is fine. So that's running on the 2.0 ports, and then that's connected into the motherboard there. And then the wiring here is also in the 2.0 port over here. So the dongle master is in the 2.0 connectors, the motherboard connector, which is that one there, running off that USB 3 extension, which is only going to give you USB 2.0, and then you connect it to the USB extensions there. So your USBs on the side should in series be connected. Now I've got this cable running that way across the board rather than around here, just to save some wiring on this end of the unit. And yeah, so we've got everything sort of rigged up nicely. Like I say, I've done hours of testing because I had some issues with the displays not showing correctly, crashing and stuff like that. I've had to come in and do some extensive testing because it wasn't doing it every time. And then I spoke to Lee at PactoTech. He'd advised us to have these wires loose away so they're not bundled up with each other. Now you should be able to pin it back somewhere, like I say, but try and keep it away from all the other wiring on the board and stuff. Not sure why that would be a huge issue, but it must just be signals or the greater cable. I'm not sure. Maybe I could do some extra testing on that, but it seems to solve the issue and seems to be working. So what we've also done is drilled another hole as well. Now what I've done is I've gotten these switches. Now I've got spare ones of these. I will be buying in a bulk of them, and basically what you need to do is you'll have your wire for your they're from Thunderstick Studios, these buttons. They're a split button, so that's disconnect mode, and that's disconnect mode, and then we have our controller mode at the top for the arcade controls. So then what you need to do is your wires on the back, you'll have your 3 wires coming off. Now the black one's ground, the green one and the blue one should be rigged to your board. We come around, we've got on our disconnect, we have our green wire on there on the board, and on our analog mode for the arcade controls we've got the blue wire coming out on that pin, and then the black is on the second pin from the bottom, which is the ground. That just wires up there, and generally you have some extra wires too, a red and an orange, which can just be cut off. So what I'll do is I'll cut away and then I'll show off some features on these boards. Right then, once you're happy with the wiring, what I want you to do is just double check, go to the internet connection, connect to your network, bottom right hand corner, and then just head to this site here, which should be hardwaretester.com/gamepad. okay, and as you press the buttons on the arcade, just press player 1, it should come up player 1 Xinput. Just move around, test each button, make sure they're in the right order of the gamepad. You kind of start your left and right pinball should be your left trigger and right trigger, and same with player 2. So if we just move over to the Xinput player 2 and just do your simple movements, all your buttons, make sure everything's working and flashing up correctly, and then you can check your Xbox controllers if you wish, just to make sure they're in player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. If that's correct, then you just close that out. Now there is another way to check your buttons as well, is to go into the start menu, go to control panel, hardware and sound, devices and printers, right click on Maple, go to game controller settings, and then you'll have all your Xbox 360 controllers in the top left hand side there, all your different devices, and then you go to properties and then just check each controller's properties on each controller. Now sometimes it can get jumbled up on the first install, and what I found, it is meant to stop any hot swapping, but what I found is I had to swap the actual USB of the main controller to the other USB port, because obviously when I format my operating systems, I generally have Xbox controllers in different ports and stuff like that. So I'd actually in the internal USBs I had to swap it round, just simply swap it round, because player 1, player 2 was the wrong way around for some reason, which this board's meant to avoid that. But if you do have that issue, just swap your USB round and that should fix it. There is another option you can use as well, just to check, make sure once everything's set up, you won't have any hot swapping issues after that. So you just go to D drive, arcade tools, you go to hyper, arcade tools, joy IDs, then joy IDs.exe. Generally it'll tell you the order of your IDs of your controllers. Sometimes you just got to go in and check and do a test. So what I like to do is open this side by side with Rocket Launcher. So we've got Rocket Launcher open there. Now if you come to global settings and where it says exit emulator key, click on that. So you'll get something that looks like this. So what you would do is just click add and then click the camera and just press any button on your first controller. If it comes up 1 joy 1 on your first button, or 1 joy whatever button you press, then that indicates that that's mapped to player 1. Click the camera again and just press, oh, 2 moments, for some reason that crashed out. Let's open that again. So try again, add. So just click the camera, press any button on player 2. So it should say 2 joy 1. So that's joy 2. So the 2 is the number of joystick you're using. The first number is the number of joystick. Then if you get your Xbox controllers, just click the camera and then press a button on the controller. That's a controller plugged in the top port, and the one in the bottom port should be 4. Now if you get 3 and 4 back to front, all you would have to do is come over to the IDs over here and just click on the ID and say 3. If 3 is 4 and 4 is 3, just click on the ID and just click on the order you want to change it to, and it'll ask you if you want to swap it. I'll click no because I know my order's correct, and then just close that down, and that should be it. That should keep your IDs nice and neat. Now with the PactoTech, generally I've in the past with the Xinput controllers, I haven't had to use basically forced IDs within Mame, but now I've created a INI file, basically that allows all the joy IDs for every controller, because when you start connecting the Wii controllers, because of the direct input, it does start jumbling your IDs around. So I've created a INI file that is going to be put on the newer systems and the updates. Basically that will keep every controller ID in order within Mame. So it's always going to be player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4, and the Wii controllers are going to be the 7, 8, 9 and 10. So we would leave 5 and 6 as extra controls if we do a 4-player unit or anything like that. So everything within Mame always has its IDs in perfect order, because like I say, the Wii controller kit generally messes up the IDs and stuff. Now you don't have to have the Xbox controllers connected at all times as well. This means when you start up the system and you want to play the light gun games, you don't actually have to have the Xbox controllers plugged in when you play the Mame light gun games. Usually we would have to plug in the Xbox controllers, so then take default IDs within Mame, and then the Wii controller kit would then switch on and allocate its own IDs. This way, when you load up the Mame light gun games, it's got its own allocated IDs. Right, so we have the PactoTech all rigged up. When the unit starts, it should look something like this. What you want to do is, at the moment we don't have any of the Xbox controllers plugged in. Now if you want Mame 4 players, you can plug in your Xbox controllers, and the IDs should always recognize as player 1, player 2, player 3, and then player 4. If we just grab our secondary Xbox controller, plug that in, allow that to sync up. So if we just go up to Mame 4 players, and then we'll just load Turtles in Time.
Loading. Loading complete.
So if we add some credits, player 1, and then player 2, then the third controller, which is in, the third controller in the top port, and then on the bottom port, player 4. So as we're adding coins, player 4 works. Now, if we just quit that, so hold the coin button, then hold the start for a few seconds, that'll quit out. Now what we're going to do is head down to the Sega Genesis, our Master System. Sorry, not the Master System, the Mega Drive. So we're on the Mega Drive. Now, I would probably recommend unplugging the Xbox controllers and loading the system, but it doesn't really matter, because you would have to unplug the controllers anyways. So if we load the system up now, we'll load Street Fighter up.
Extracting file. Extraction complete.
I like to try Street Fighter because I know the button layouts for Street Fighter. If the button layouts are right, top 3 buttons punch, bottom 3 kicks, you know your button layout is correct. So let's just start a game. So this is arcade controls currently, and this would work up to 4 players on any 4-player games. I'm not sure of any that was on the Mega Drive, but this will work up to 4 players with the Xbox controllers. Just head into 2-player versus there. Now if we move left and right, player 1, left and right, player 2, we can see now that that's player 1, that's player 2. Now if we want to just switch to the Xbox controllers, I will unplug the Xbox controllers first. I will be installing these switches like I explained before. Now the bottom should go into disconnect mode. Now you can go into disconnect mode by holding both coin buttons, player 1 and player 2, but I've only got one hand currently, so I'm just going to press this button. The PactoTech board will flash up, and then it'll start the countdown. And basically what that does, it goes into keyboard and mouse mode. So once it's in there, you just come along, while you're in game, plug in your Xbox controllers, allow them to sync. I'm stood on the wire there. So they're plugged in and they're synced. Now player 1 and 2, so we've got player 1 there and player 2. So that's using the Xbox controllers. I do recommend you do this while you're in the system, rather than at the main menu, because it can cause you issues with disabling your arcade controls, stuff like that on the main menu. it's best to use the arcade controls on the main menu and then the controllers in the game and system. So we're in disconnect mode. So what we want to do is, if we want the arcade controls back, which you would have to do this before you exit the system, just unplug the controllers, press your top button, or you can hold the back button, player 1. So if I just hold that for 8 seconds there, then it'll flash up and then it should start the countdown. It is quicker if you do just press the button. So these buttons will be also installed on all of the SHAR-KADE units. So that's now in joypad mode. So now if we move along, we've got player 1 there and now player 2. I've got a delivery, I'll be back in a second. Right, so player 1 and player 2 is now working. And if you wanted 4 players within the system, you would just reconnect your Xbox controllers. First one in the top port, second one in the bottom port, allow those to sync. And then we still have our player 1 and player 2 controls. And then we'll have our 3 and 4 for the Xbox controller. So if we hold our coin and then start, it will exit out. So that is the Genesis. Now if we went to the Sony PlayStation, it would be exactly the same. Now usually by default with the Xinput controllers, player 1 and player 2 Xbox controllers, player 1 and player 2 Xbox controllers would be default with the Xinput controllers, because obviously analog systems and games, it is recommended you use Xbox controllers because it is some analog games. But if you're just playing Street Fighter, that's fine. You would probably want to play it with the arcade controls. So this also allows you to just instantly swap between the different controller setups. So we should now have currently player 1 and player 2 as the arcade controls. So if we just move down there, we've got player 1 moving down, then player 2. And then if we wish to use the Xbox controllers, we'll come across, unplug the Xbox controllers. So it's not looking for any controllers. We'll just press our button there, the down button, which is disconnect mode. So it's now in disconnect mode. I keep getting snagged with me wiring. Right, so let's plug in the Xbox controllers. And on the screen it should flash up at the bottom, depending if you're in a RetroArch system, to say that the Xbox controllers are connected. Now we have controllers on the Xbox controller for player 1 and player 2. And it's that simple. Just always make sure when you're exiting the system, you disconnect the Xbox controllers and then you put it into the analog mode, which is the default mode. And then when that syncs up, it'll flash on your screen in RetroArch to say that your controllers are connected. So when you move player 1 and player 2 left and right, up and down, you will then have arcade controls. So hold the coin, then hold start. The system will quit. Let's head back. Now go up, and what we'll do is we'll show off a PC game. So I'm going to go to, let's head to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So same again, we have no Xbox controllers connected. There's no reason to have them connected at this moment. Let's load up, because we will have to disconnect them to then reconnect them. It's not a big issue if you do go to disconnect mode. It will just, depending on which one which USB it finds first, it will just connect to whatever one it finds first, and then that would be controller 1 and then controller 2. Me personally, I like to always make sure my top port's player 1, my bottom port's player 2 if I can. With PC games, you don't even have to have the both controllers connected. Just plug in the one in one of those ports, it'll be fine. And this is only for the PactoTech. With the Xinput controller, it is recommended you do the process that I do recommend. That way everything, all your IDs keep the same. Now I have done some updates within Mame as well. Changed all the controller IDs, the Wii bar IDs, so it's always recognizing and looking for those controllers when the system's connected as well, so it always recognizes them as player 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. So we've loaded the game. I'm just going to go into disconnect mode, where I'll show that the arcade controls work first. There's also a hold button to go into D-pad mode as well. So if you find the game doesn't work with the controls on the main menu and it's an analog, because these are default analog controls, if you wanted a D-pad mode, there is a manual on the PactoTech website. It tells you all the button combinations that you can hold to go into turbo mode. You can set turbo buttons up. I don't have that in front of me at the moment. I might just leave a link in the description to that PDF file. You can check that out. Or I might just flag it up on the screen if I've got time to edit the video. But there is different modes. You hold in different buttons. Do turbo mode for turbo buttons. Set different buttons to turbo buttons. You can set, like I say, to D-pad. Especially for games like Tekken 7, you would need the arcade controls default to the D-pad rather than the analog. So if we move around there, we can see that the cursor's moving as an analog, and that the controls work like an Xbox controller. So all those buttons are working. Now we want to go into disconnect mode. Like I say, always make sure before you quit the game, just put it back into the arcade mode, basically the analog mode. That way it keeps your controls on the main menu. You're not having any issues. But so far it's so good. Like I say, I've done hours upon hours of testing. The issue on my end was the fact that the wiring needs to hang. You've just got to have it so it's not bundled up. You can probably pin it back, but you can't have it connected to loads of other wiring. It's just going to interfere with the display and stuff. The PactoTech itself works fine. It's just the display will glitch out if that wiring's going to different loops and stuff like that, if it's bundled with different wiring. So we've got the Xbox controller working, no problem on the main menu there. So that all works nicely. So I'm going to disconnect that controller again, and then I'm just going to come across. Now I can hold the coin button, player 1, like I say. I'll just press that button, it's quicker than waiting 8 seconds to hold a button. And that way, with those buttons added to the unit as well, it gives you that option to instantly connect and disconnect to the controller itself. I will, like I say, buy in some of these buttons. So if any customers have ordered the PactoTech from me, I will give those buttons away free on my end. So I'm not really charging for those. I do have some spare ones in anyways from gate switches and stuff like that. So I do have some of these buttons spare. But you can buy different buttons as well. If you wanted to add multiple buttons of these and have all the different modes and stuff like that connected, you can do. Me, I try not to have too many buttons on the machine. But I think it's handy just having that little up and down button there. It looks clean, it looks tidy. It doesn't look like a square switch on there. I like everything looking nice, clean, tidy, professional finish. With that, it's just a nice little addition to the unit. It looks nice on there and so on. It's a shame I couldn't get the LEDs to work on those buttons. I think there is a W2828 style buttons, which are addressable LEDs, I think. So I would have to rig up addressable LEDs, where the LEDs I use on the unit are RGB LEDs, so I wouldn't be able to rig any LEDs to that button, unfortunately. So we're back in the gamepad ready mode, so let's head down, and there we go. We can just quit the desktop, and that will bring me back to the main Hyperspin menu. I will be doing future videos of the PactoTech, showing off the other features, but for this video it's just basically an installation tutorial. I hope I've done well. I've never done a how-to or installation video that much. I might have done one or two, but I've always just rushed them and stuff like that. I've tried to get as much information as I can into this video, so it makes it easier for you to install your PactoTech if that's the direction you want to take. It is going to require on your C drive, which is your operating system drive, to probably be updated from my end, just so you've got all the updated stuff like that on your system. And it will require a big update on your D drive. Now I will likely upload that to the Google Drive. It is going to be quite big, but I might upload that to the Google Drive so customers can download it if they wish, or you can send your drive to me for updating. And no customers with a 32 terabyte, it'll likely want their drives updating anyways. So if you are going to install a PactoTech on your system, you can do that as well. What I do though is I've had a nightmare of the past few days, not being able to get hold of stuff and buttons and stuff like that, having to deal with this the past few days and trying to figure it out when it was something so simple. I'm just absolutely mentally worn out, so I'm going to take the rest of the day off, work on this video, get that uploaded, and then I'll be back tomorrow to do a video of the Mortal Kombat unit. That's now finished. Then I can just crack on with the next builds. I apologise if you are a waiting customer and you've had an extra delay in the builds. I will get onto your builds as soon as I can. We do have the stand-up, the Lollipop Chainsaw stand-up, currently getting done. I can't get any pink buttons in at the moment, so that build's going to have to be put on hold for a couple of weeks till I can get those from China. I can't get them from anywhere else, so they're going to have to go on hold for a few weeks. Hopefully I can get onto the next stand-up builds and stuff like that and get those done and out the door for the customers. So unfortunately it's one of those things, sometimes a stock of buttons. I generally stock most colours in, but pink, I did only have a few pink buttons. I think I've got about 10 pink buttons. I don't know why I would have just 10, but I've only got 10 pink buttons. And as you can see, I've got stacks and boxes of all different colours. We have the ring glow buttons there, blue and red. I try and keep a stock in, but pink is just an unusual colour. I don't generally hold a big stock of those in. It is what it is. So leave a thumbs up down below. Let us know what you think of this tutorial, if it was helpful, let us know if it was crap. Let us know if there was anything I could improve on, maybe next time explain something more in it. Hopefully I've covered every angle of being able to do it, and you can follow it quite easily and so on. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the videos and hit that notification bell, and I will catch us in the next one. Bye.
Swear I won't forget this, why do I regret this? In my mind reckless, thoughts are feeling endless. Sitting up I'm breathless, anxiety's infectious. I feel so defenseless, betrayed and embarrassed. I hate being open, I hate being broken. I feel like an ocean filled up with emotion. Anger ain't a potion, rub it on like lotion. I can feel it soaking, reopen, the scars have awoken. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go. strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go.